solve the problem. Okay, this is the second session and Expanding Consciousness series. Hi, and welcome again to our workshop series, Expanding Consciousness, Reclaiming the Sacred as the Foundation of Your Life. And thanks again for joining us. This is the second session, as I said, in the series, and I'm going to share a brief intro again, as I did yesterday, in case you haven't watched the previous session yet. So for people watching later, this is what this is mostly for. Among the most important things in this time of change is your ability to get into your heart, to feed your soul, and to touch the sacred within yourself and make it the foundation around which you shape your life. More than anything, how well each of us is able to do these things will determine what world we will create and leave behind. What all that looks like and what the most important things are for us to do and focus on to be able to do just that is what Kay is teaching you during each session in this series. My name is Helmut Whitaker, and I am here with my wife Kay Cordell Whitaker. Kay is the author of The Reluctant Shaman and Sacred Link, and yes, you can get both these books on Amazon. In the Peruvian medicine tradition of Katase that Kay apprenticed in for many years with our shaman elders Tamana and Chia Whitaker, she's a Kalkanase, a healer, a seer, thrower of the bones, and a weaver of webs of balance. In the second session, Kay will teach you how to live from your heart instead of from your linear mind and masks, and why this is so important if we want to create a different future for this world and for the generations. So here's Kay with the second session of Expanding Consciousness called Living from Your Heart versus Your Linear Mind and Masks. Okay?
Okay. Hello, everybody. We hear a lot of talk about heart and heart center. And what does that mean? How does that differ from your heart chakra or your physical heart? And so I'm going to start right there. The heart that most people are talking about is the heart center. And this is definitely a different thing than the heart chakra. And it's a different thing than the physical heart. Our physical heart, we're all very familiar with. It's physical tissue in the body, pumps blood. The heart chakra is the energy vortex, the energy center that's in the center of your chest. And it's has all of these things that we think of as heart and heart quality, heart energies. It combines all the other main chakras and their energies and brings them into a balance and a harmony. So it encompasses all of the different qualities that all of our main chakras have. And its biggest quality, the most profound quality, is that of love and positive emotions. So when we compare that to what people talk about as the heart center, or moving into the heart, they don't mean the chakra. This is not the chakra they're talking about. This is bigger. This is a whole lot bigger. The heart center is a term that's used. It's a label that's used to talk about one's whole song, one's whole self, the whole being, our totality. which encompasses the physical, the emotional, the mental, the spiritual. It encompasses the physical body and all of the knowledge the physical body has, the inherent knowledge of our cells and our organs. The physical center is what a lot of people refer to as feminine, love, the love center. When we talk about our whole self, our totality, this means everything. Everything that we are that is on spiritual levels, emotional, mental, physical. It's everything linear, everything non-linear. It's the totality. That's what our song is. And our totality is operating mostly in the non-linear, multidimensionally. It is the feminine part of our being, the bigger part. The feminine is the bigger part. The non-linear is the bigger part of our totality. The teachers have always said that everything in the universe is a song. Everything. Everything is an entity. It is alive. It thinks. It's conscious. It has emotions. It interacts. Everything. Everything is alive with all these attributes. Everything is a song. That means every subatomic particle, all the way up to humans, to planets, to stars, to galaxies, clusters of galaxies, the space in between, the electromagnetic fields that are present, the energies that are present. They're all alive. Everything is alive. Everything is conscious. And it is talked about with these words that we talked about yesterday. Words don't always encapsulate these multidimensional, nonlinear ideas and experiences very well, but we have to do the best that we can do. And this is just the way it is spoken of. Every song has a center. Every song has a heart. That heart is its center. And we're speaking metaphorically here. It's not like something 3D that has a parameter and walls and there's a center spot. And that center spot is the heart. It's not like that. We're talking multidimensionally, non-linearly, and this is a metaphor. Everything is a song. Every song has a center, a heart. Now, when we want to compare that to something linear, the linear mind, for instance, things that are the linear parts of our totality, that is the smaller part. The nonlinear is always considered the bigger part, much bigger. And linear physical things are considered the smaller part, the masculine part. They have to do with 3D time, space. The linear mind, we need it. We can't live without that. That's part of our being. It's part of how we operate. But it has specific parameters. It does certain kinds of things, and it does those very well. It relates to 3D time, space, and linear things. It calculates. It memorizes. It categorizes. And we have to have those parts. But our linear mind also has come to lean towards materialism and two-dimensional logic, and it gets stuck. The linear mind has this tendency to easily get caught up and stuck in different pieces of information and different kinds of patterns, especially if something is repeated. And that's where the trouble comes in with the linear mind. The linear mind loves words. It operates really well with words, and especially the way we use words in a very linear string of concepts. But when we get into a cultural context like we have today with our culture, our modern culture, and with all of its programming, with all of those masks, all the propaganda, all the lies that get literally just kind of shoved right down our throat from the time we're born, and we're brainwashed with all of that cultural dogma. And the linear mind loves this kind of thing. It latches onto it, it gets stuck in it, and it gets stuck in loops. It loves to talk to itself. The linear mind really, really, really likes to talk to itself. So it does over and over and over. And in our modern culture, what it tends to say is all this programming, all the lies, all the propaganda, all the shoulds, all this stuff that our culture is made out of with all of its fear and its anger and all the things that go with that. The linear mind makes up little sentences and little stories, and complete with pictures sometimes and scenarios, and it just plays them like a broken record. It just keeps playing them over and over and over and over again. The more we hear it, the more we tend to just automatically believe it. So from the time we're born, we hear it outside of ourselves. Everybody around us, they're all saying the same kind of thing. They're all bringing up the same kind of emotions that go with the same little loops of verbiage that they just keep spewing out. The same ideas and beliefs. They're believing in it. They get really dogmatic about it. So when we're tiny, we're learning how to do the same thing because we don't know any different. We're born without any masks and no programming. We're born knowing our song, feeling our song, living our song, identifying with our song, expressing our song, our totality. We're born with all those song abilities intact. Telepathy, all this non-linear way of looking at and contemplating things, understanding things, experiencing things. So as we grow older and older, we're getting more and more impacted by all of the propaganda, all the lies, and all their babble. And we've learned how to turn them into these masks that it's the word the Whitakers, our teachers, use. The masks. We take all this propaganda, all the lies, and we slap it on ourselves like a mask. It's not who and what we are. It's not entirely real. It's a pretend thing, but it becomes very real to us. And that's what we end up identifying with. We identify with those masks. We think that that's who we are. and what we are and what we're all about and what life is all about. And we attach a huge emotional charge to this. We get very attached to all these beliefs and ideas, and they're all held blindly. We've never questioned them. That's part of the culture. That's part of the propaganda. Don't question. Don't question any of this. Just accept it. Believe it. Have faith in it. Believe. That means believe blindly. And we do. We can see it. You look out there and in the world around you, at the population and the people and the different groups and different countries and cultures. And they're all believing their propaganda and their lies very dogmatically. They latch onto them with very, very, very strong emotional attachments. So the Whitakers, D'Amato used to tell this story the most, to try to help describe what this linear mind is like and how it compares to the nonlinear, the rest of us, the rest of who and what we are, this multidimensional, nonlinear, spiritual, energetic part of our being. So he's described this as an old VW bus with the seats and stuff in the back all torn out. Just the driver's seat. You just got the driver's seat. And this bus is the linear mind. This represents, this is a metaphor for the linear mind. One of the most important things that the linear mind does is it has a driver's seat, complete with the wheel, the driver's wheel. And you got the window, dashboard, the window, so you can see where you're going. When we are operating from our song and we know who we are and what we are, and we're not buying into any of the lies or the masks, we know who we are. We know what that's all about and exploring it and learning more and more. They called this being awake. And that means you're sitting in that driver's seat and you got the seat belt on and you got your hands on the wheel and you're in control. And you're the one in control. You have choice, absolute choice in every minute. Decide what you want to think. You decide what you want to feel emotionally. You decide what action you want to take, where you want your attention to be aimed. Now, our song, our whole beingness, is pure attention. That's what we are. Pure attention, pure consciousness. That's what we are. And when we're in that driver's seat, we're the ones running the show and directing where to put our attention. What are we going to collect our attention on? And where are we aiming it? And how to stay focused right there without being distracted. In our modern culture, when we have taken on all the masks and all the programming, we're no longer sitting in that driver's seat. We're very distracted. Our attention has been scattered by these masks in 1,000 different directions. And our mind is just flopping all over the place, this way and then that way, and then we're distracted over here and up there and down there. And we're not the ones directing our own attention. We're not directing our own consciousness when we're in that state. We're not in the driver's seat. What we're really like is we're in the back of the bus. We're just hanging out in the back of the bus. Just, going for a ride. And what's in the driver's seat are the masks, the programming. All of the lies, all the propaganda, all the masks, all that stuff we learned how to identify with is sitting in our driver's seat. And that's what's deciding what the attention is going to be doing, where it's aimed, and which piece of propaganda it's going to focus on at any given minute. And it flips your mind around this way and that way, and paying attention to this little piece of stuff and dogma and lies and this thing going on in your life, and dredging up all these emotions to go with each piece of propaganda and each mask. So you're on a little roller coaster ride, and they're directing it. They're in charge. They're in control. And there we are in the back of the bus. When we're doing this, the masks see to it that we get a little physiological benefit, a reward for going in the back of the bus and giving up the driver's seat. And this is a chemical reward. It directs our body to create a kind of opiate. Literally, a kind of opiate. This is a physiological response. And it's just as if we're laying out in the back of the bus and we're drugged out. We're just shooting up. Drugged out, don't care, don't want to know, don't want to take responsibility for anything. We're just sort of there along for the ride, and we turned over all our power. We turned over all of our attention and our consciousness and the control of that attention and consciousness to the programming, to the masks. We just threw it away, gave it away. And we're living, just kind of blowing around in the psychic winds of the moment, from one moment to the next. No real purpose, no real direction, forgetting everything, forgetting who we are. And that's part of the whole propaganda thing, the programming, to forget who we are. That's the biggest underlying factor, the biggest demand and instruction that was given to us as we grew up, to not know who we are. It's a taboo. We're not supposed to know that, to feel it. We're not supposed to understand that we are this great being, this multidimensional being that can perceive all these kinds of things and be telepathic even. So we follow those instructions and we proceed to forget, to bury it, to pretend it doesn't exist. Very literally, we give away, we throw away our song, our identity. We're throwing away our real identity. And that is the most painful thing that a human can experience, is to lose that. And that's what we've done. Somewhere as a toddler, young child, a few of us maybe a little bit older, but most of us pretty young, we've given away our song a piece at a time until we've totally forgotten. And then we forgot that we decided to forget. And we think we are the programming, we think we are the masks, and we act accordingly. We just try to live that out. When we forget our song, when we've given it away and turned away from it, really tried to disconnect ourselves from it, any knowledge of it, any feeling of it, we're stifling our consciousness. We're taking the potential of our attention and squishing it down into this little bitty thing. We're stifling our consciousness. We're pushing it into a tiny little box, a tiny hole. This is very painful. The pain and that feeling of loss, even though we try to ignore it and bury it, it's always there. Doesn't matter how old you get, as long as you're still playing that game, there's this underlying discomfort, pain, a sense of grief, of loss. Nothing fills. Nothing can fill it. Nothing can fill it but the real thing. The knowledge and experience of your own song, and getting it back in the driver's seat. So here's this image of what we've done to ourselves in our culture at this time, this era that we're in, this era of the world that's coming to an end. We're in the middle of that time when it is ending, and this whole way of being, which is letting that linear mind be run by the masks and running everything, our minds, our emotions, our lives, running our whole culture and everything that's in our culture, every aspect, every kind of institution. It's running it from these dogmatic, painful, two-dimensional power over force ways of being. It's running on fear. Fear's the fuel. Anger. That's the fuel. Keeps the machine running. Keeps us believing that we are separate from our own song and separate from everything else. If you're separated from your song and your own consciousness, you feel very separated from everything else. You can't perceive it. To perceive those things, that's a multidimensional thing. It's a non-linear thing. That involves our spirit senses. We turn it off when we turn off our song. That means we can't perceive the aliveness of anything else out there. We can't perceive that we are connected, that we live in this extremely beautiful ocean, this field of connectedness, field of awareness, of aliveness. When we're involving our wholeness, our song, our heart center, which is another way to say that, involving all the multidimensional aspects of ourself. That's where the connectedness is. That's where it exists. If you want to think of it metaphorically, it's like threads, cords. In some spiritual circles, it's even called Aka cords. Aka meaning Akasha. The heart center, this wholeness of ourselves, is all about connectedness and love. That's where we experience it. the more we can experience our own song, the more we are tuning in to our totality, our wholeness, which includes our physical body and all of that inherent knowledge of the physical body. That's where our connectedness is. And that's where we experience absolute unconditional love. The love we think we know, that we grew up with in this modern culture, with all these people being so asleep and so programmed, so full of propaganda and dogma, and everything is based on fear and hate. The idea of love in that context, in that box, is conditional love. That's all it can be. It's very conditional. We will give you our love, or what we think is love, our attention, positive attention, if you do this, this, and this. And if you don't, you aren't going to get any. I'm going to turn away from you. I'm going to cast you away. You have to live up to my expectations, or I will not love you. That's what's said in our culture. People don't say it that bluntly in words, but they sure do say it with all of their actions and all their thoughts and all their emotions. In all this propaganda, we hold so many pictures of who everybody should be and what they should be and what they should be doing and how they should be relating to this person or that person. Pictures, expectations. And they're not always very nice pictures. They demand a whole lot of actions and attention from us that has nothing to do with real love or real caring. Has nothing to do with real song, the love and the connectedness of the universe. It's all about me, 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 me. Mine, mine, mine. And doing things that you want at the expense of something else or someone else. Taking action at the expense of other. You could actually use that as a title for our entire culture, because we learn how to do that with everything that we do, think, and feel. Making sure something is the way we want with our picture from our programming and our asleepness, and it's at the expense of something or someone else. This is what is coming to an end. This is what the old culture that's dying out is all about, and it's ending. And we are moving on. We're moving out of that box. We're evolving. Our consciousness has to heal and has to be allowed to recover from all of the damage of the programming. Our heart center, our wholeness, our song. This is where the connectedness is. This is where the love is. We are connected so intimately with everything. And we are a piece of Creator. Every song, a piece of Creator, and is completely unique and individual. And this means There is so much diversity in the universe. It's incomprehensible. Very connected, but very, very unique and very individual, each one of us. And that creates the diversity. The universe loves diversity. It loves experience. The more diverse and the more experience, the better. And that's a big piece of who and what we are and why we are here and why we're in this physical human body having these experiences. If everybody was all just the same, there wouldn't be much diversity, wouldn't be any. And that would really, really limit the universe's ability to be able to experience more things and more different things and learn from all this variety and diversity. So the fact that we are these separate units, we are single units of the Creator, piece. We are each a piece of Creator and very unique, very individual. But we're connected. We have this incredible connectedness that is so beautiful and very intense and so full of love. The universe is born on love. And it's everywhere. It's in everything. It is everything. Without all of that diversity, we would not be seeing the world out here that we see. There wouldn't be all these different kinds of races of people and different kinds of plants and different kinds of animals and so many different planets and solar systems and galaxies. We wouldn't have the diversity. The universe would be quite stunted by comparison. The universe in this connectedness loves sharing. It loves sharing the diversities. It loves sharing all the information that everybody has. You could look at it as a gigantic cosmic gossip circle. Loves sharing. The more diversity, the more information, the more energies, the more love, the better. And everybody has their own take on it and their own way of understanding it and feeling it, and experiencing it, expressing it, giving it, receiving it. All those diversities, and they're all shared. All the way from the molecules, molecular level, through cellular levels, human level. The diversity is such a blessing. It's so rich. It's so rich, rich, rich. And it's all ours to share and experience and participate in. Two-way sharing. We share what we've experienced and found and things that have come our way with everybody else, everything else. They're sharing it with us. It is inconceivably rich. This is pooling our resources from the molecular level, through cell level, through human level. We are pooling resources, sharing, cooperating. All of this makes a much greater opportunity to create and to experience. We're a piece of creator, so we have the ability to create. We can create just about anything we could dream up. With all of this interaction and sharing, pooling of resources, there is absolutely no limit of things that we could possibly create. There's no limit to the kind of culture, the society, and relationships that we could create. It's only limited by our own imagination, and right now by our very squelched consciousness. So it takes more awareness. Collecting our awareness back. The masks have just scattered it and given us the habit of having a very short attention span and scattering that attention just everywhere. We have to learn how to take it back, purposefully choosing, collect our attention. This pulls our consciousness back together. It pulls it out of the pit that we tossed it into. We talk about raising consciousness. You hear a lot of that. All kinds of different people, different groups. Raising consciousness. Well, the first step to raising consciousness is to raise it up out of the pit that we threw it into. And we stepped on it and squished it down as hard as we could, because that was the name of the game. But now, that time's gone. It's ending, gone. And we're moving into a new time, a new world. This is the bridge time. We're building a new world. We have to raise our consciousness back up out of the pit. And that means to free ourselves of the programming, of the masks, of all the blind beliefs, of all the lies that have come our way, all that dogma, all the things that go with it, all the emotional habit that goes with it, to free ourselves of that, to let it go. Observe it, realize that it's bogus, it's not real, it's lies, it's part of the problem, and let it go. The more consciousness we have, the more we are going to be able to perceive past the linear, into that non-linear, into the multidimensional, the spirit, everything that is spiritual. Be able to perceive the spiritual senses that we have, the spiritual gifts. When we threw our song away, we threw all those things away, tried to pretend that they didn't exist. They're only atrophied a little bit, but they're still there, and they can be recovered. It doesn't have to take all that much time. It's not all that hard, but it does take choice. And the first of that choice is to find your song, feel the song, do the song ceremony. Explore your own song, your own beingness. Get past that linear, get past the linear box, the programming box. Explore and feel what's really there. What is non-linear, multidimensional? Lots of spirit senses and lots of spirit gifts. And they're yours. Hello. Hi, Anna. She agrees. That's what it's all about. Love and kisses. Humanity today, we got pretty stifled, pretty squished, but we're evolving. And everything around us, our planet, that humanity as a whole is going to evolve, whether we choose to participate in it or not. If we choose to participate and wake up and experience that incredibleness that waking up is all about, then we are evolving as individuals, as a whole culture, and we are evolving towards love. We're evolving towards connectedness, being more and more aware of it, being able to experience it. We're evolving towards spirit senses, telepathy, perceiving the sense of what is around you, the signatures and of just what is there and what that's all about. That's all part of spirit senses. So we need more love. The more you explore your song, you'll discover it is made out of love. It is love, absolute unconditional love. There are no strings attached. There's no price to pay. This is boundless, pure, free, unconditional love and acceptance. We're moving towards that. And the more you can do that consciously and invite that into your life and how to be it in everyday life, living, everyday choices, the more awake you will get. The more you'll be pulling your consciousness out of that dark pit that it got squished into. So we are the sum of the parts that make us up. We are the sum of the parts, and the sum of the parts is always greater than the whole. That goes for looking at ourselves in a molecular viewpoint or a cellular viewpoint, or looking at humanity, all the separate units of humanity, all these humans. You get them all together, it is much greater than the sum of dealing with all of those parts by themselves. The sum is always greater than the parts. That's where we're aiming. That's what we want to see. That's the signpost we want to put ahead of us. This is what it's all about. The world that we are inching our way towards, faster and faster, is so incredible. And we are the ones that will be in charge. We will be in our own driver's seat with our hands on the wheel, making those choices as to what we're going to be like inside ourselves and what our personal lives are going to be like and what our groups are going to be like. Our social groups, our cultural groups, the whole culture, whole humanity as a whole. We are the ones that have to be in charge. It's up to us. Nobody else is going to do it. And the time of the masks and the programming is disappearing. So that's the picture. Thank you all.
Thank you, Kay.
You're
Beautiful.
Very welcome. Very welcome.
Again. And we are going to a Q&A time again. So if you have questions, please post them in the chat and we'll take them one at a time. We give it a little bit of time for them to show up. No question. Oh, I love you, Kate, from Margie. Thank you both for bringing us the education and love. Why are humans not supposed to know themselves? Who started the fear thought process in the very beginning? Hang on a second, Kate. I think I made a mistake here. Hang on a second.
All right.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's better.
All right.
Any more questions? Please post them in the chat.
Okay. Who started the game? Well, that's a really good question. In the Egyptian way of telling the story, about 10,000 years ago, they knew that the world was headed for a decline, that we were headed for a diminishing of ourselves and a turning away from all the spiritual knowledge. In their way of talking about it, they use the word, the phrase, masculine imbalance, that the world was going to be overcome by a masculine imbalance. And what that means is a linear imbalance. They see the world as being made up of linear and nonlinear, masculine and feminine, male, female, the two energies, yin yang. And everything has these two parts, a linear aspect and a nonlinear aspect. And humans do, of course, too. So if we have a masculine imbalance, then that means everything is going to be overrun by everything linear and masculine and physical, materialism. And everything that was nonlinear, spiritual, feminine would be put down, eradicated, eliminated, diminished, disregarded, made illegal, all that kind of stuff. In 10,000 BC, the Egyptian culture was, of course, pre-dynastic, way pre-dynastic. It was a matriarchal culture, but not in a power over sense. This was egalitarian, equal, but women had the last say. Women were the ones basically in charge, but not in the way we see males being in charge now, in their power over and force way of doing things. So they saw into the future. We don't We never were taught any information exactly how they saw into the future this way, but they knew the cycle was coming, and they prepared for it. And they prepared the teachings to go underground, to become hidden and secret, so that they would stay alive and intact in at least a tiny piece of the culture. So by 5,000 years ago, so that's 3,000 BC-ish, the male dominance, patriarchy, had completely taken over and pushed out everything female that they could, everything non-linear, everything spiritual. And what used to be a spiritual knowledge and understanding that was taught to every person in the culture in Egypt was now very secret. So secret that if you spoke outside of the circles the teeniest little bit about this knowledge, they would kill you. The people hiding it, the priests, priestesses, those who were keeping it intact and completely secret, because it had to be kept intact for today. Today is the time that all this knowledge coming from Egypt and from all these other cultures and indigenous peoples all over the planet, including my teachers, the Whitakers, the Manonchi Whitaker with the Katasi tradition. This is the time that it has to come back out to the world, because this is the end of that era of diminishment and forgetting and power over and fear. In order to make a culture that is excommunicating more than half of what everything is, because the female part, the non-linear part, is much bigger than the linear part. So in order to do that, it has to be fear-based and anger-based. That's the poison that starts that machine running and keeps it going. It feeds on itself and multiplies. It's contagious. It perpetuates itself. But now the era that we are moving into is the era of the heart. Heart center. The era of the heart. And it is the era of unconditional love. The era of knowing who we are, of being awake. Everybody being awake. And everybody learning, experiencing, understanding unconditional love and our connectedness and responding accordingly, creating our lives and our adventures in our lives, our institutions, and based on unconditional love and our connectedness. That's what we are, and that's where we're headed. I hope that answers.
Okay. I have a question that came in via email. Give me just a second. Could you take your microphone off? Okay. Somehow Cindy wasn't able to put something in the chat. So here's a question. Kay, would you discuss how one can think they are in their authentic self song, yet it's the mask that doesn't want you to look at any masks? Great question.
Okay, the echo that's happening here in our room. Jimmy.
All right, sorry.
That's okay.
Don't know what else to do. There shouldn't be an echo anymore because you are muted. Anyway,
No,
let's try that again.
I hear you talking and I hear this.
Take your headphones out if that's disturbing.
All right. Can you say the question again?
Yes, I can.
Okay, yes.
All right. Kay, would you discuss how one can think they are in their authentic self song, yet it's the mask that doesn't want you to look at any masks?
Okay, that is a good question. That's a really good question. Actually, all the masks have that attitude. They're programmed with that, and we learn by experiencing. First, we learn about experiencing our song and what's our song is, feeling it, feeling the signature of it, learning this our own signature of our own song. And then we start studying our own masks and learning the feeling of them. Each one of the masks has a signature as well. And so when we learn what those signatures are, we can tell the difference between what is a mask and what is our real song. What's the real truth here? It might sound a little confusing at first, but actually, it doesn't take very long. It doesn't take very much effort. It's just about paying attention to that feeling quality. What is the feeling quality of a mask that says, I'm a mask? And what's the feeling quality of your song that says, I am your song? You can look at other signatures too. You can look at the signature of other people. And how does that feel different than you? How about a tree? The signature of a tree. They don't have any masks. They're just pure song. But they're trees. And the feeling of them is very tree. And that feeling is really different than, say, a dog. And that's really different than a rock. It's the feeling signature, the feeling quality. It's easy. It's pretty simple. It doesn't have to be hard or difficult, or you don't have to make it confusing for yourself. It's something that has been with us all along. It's still there, and we actually use it on a subconscious level. We use this information. Damano told me that a good way to kind of understand what this is to just imagine, kind of imagine that you had this dream. And in the dream, there are three people. One of them is your father. One of them is your mother. The third one is your best friend. But in the dream, you can't see them. It's dark. Can't see them at all. They don't speak, so you don't hear any voices. And they're not close enough. You can't smell them. There's no light effects so that you can't like see an outline and distinguish them by that outline. There's nothing there to give it away. Who's who? But you know it by the feeling. It's unmistakable. That one over here, this is your father, and there's no doubt about it. It can't be anybody else. The feeling, that is your father. The other one, it's your mother. The feeling of her, it's just absolute. Nobody else in the world feels like that. Every signature is different and unique. The best friend over here can't be anybody else. That's the feeling of that person that you know. That's what signatures are. And once we kind of catch that, understand that just a little bit, and we start to apply it in a purposeful, conscious way, then you can explore. You can just go out and start experimenting and exploring with what does this thing feel like? What does that tree feel like? What does this plant over here feel like? And what does the ground feel like? And what does the mountain out there feel like? What does the wind feel like? What does the sun feel like? What does our planet feel like? Everything has its own signature. Its song, which is unique and individual, is radiating out who and what it is. And the feeling of that radiation is the signature. So I hope that helps. We have a lot more fun with signatures in classes. Lots of things in the ceremonies and practices that have to do with that.
All right, here is a long question from Marcus. I'm not sure I should read the whole question, but I will read the first one. And I hope that answers the rest of it. What does unconditional real love exactly mean? And we have a whole session on that. So, but
We'll dabble.
Okay, let's dabble.
We'll dabble. Good question. Okay. Real unconditional love. And what does it mean? It means this heartfelt caring, deep caring, a deep love that is genuine, and it has nothing attached to it. There's no chains attached to it. There's no conditions. It just is, and it is everywhere, and it's flowing everywhere. It is shared between everything, back and forth. Shared and shared and shared, back and forth. And it exists in huge waves of energy that are just pure unconditional love. In our modern culture, we put conditions on any kind of attention, especially positive attention. Parents to their children, I will love you if you behave yourself. I will love you if you do really well in school and you study this particular subject, do really well at it, because when you grow up, I want you to be a doctor. So I will love you if you do those things and succeed at it. But if you refuse and go in the other direction, I'm going to take all my love back. I'm going to take all my caring and positive attention away. That's conditional love. Unconditional love is is this love that just pours out of our heart automatically. It pours out of our heart when we have those first feelings of falling in love, and we're just all sparkles. It pours out of our heart when we see a little baby puppy or kitty, little baby animals, an unexpected flower that popped up and blossomed in the middle of the snow. All these different kinds of things evoke a wave of beautiful, caring, loving energy. And we can experience that in our culture for just a moment before the conditional things get in the driver's seat and take over and start laying out the conditions and the rules and the shoulds and the have-tos. Unconditional love is part of pure existence. It's part of our aliveness. We experience it in its purity more and more the more we experience our own song and the connectedness. The connectedness between everything in the universe is just overflowing with unconditional love. All these things out there in the world, the plants and the rocks and the soil, the wind, the waters, everything, these animals, they know unconditional love. They don't have any programming. They don't have any masks that have taught them otherwise. And they just exude unconditional love all the time. I hope that answers.
Well, it's a kind of preview of, I believe that session is on Tuesday. Thank you. Thank you for the question. All right, here is another question from Peggy. And when you say signature, are you talking about energy, soul, feeling, sense? And if you have any more questions, please post them in the chat.
Signature is what we feel from the energy, the beingness of another song, what's out there, what we're interacting with. It's the information in the energy coming off of that tree or that person or the rock or the wind, or even the field of awareness, the field of aliveness that everything is creating because of their interaction. It's giving off, it's radiating off energy, and energy is full of information, and it's full of the information about who that is, what it is, everything about your song, who you are, what you are, where you've been through the eons, not just this lifetime. It's in your song, and it's radiating out. We radiate these things out 24/7. So that energy that's full of information, that radiation, we pick it up, we feel it, and that's what we label as a signature. Everybody's signature is different because everybody's song is different. So I hope that helps. I hope that answers.
All right. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for your feedback. Really great stuff. A question from Peter. Did you meet other people of Peru, of the tribe of your teachers, or was this teaching only given to you?
I only met Domano and Chia Whitaker, and I did not meet them in South America. I met them in Santa Cruz, California. They came up into the modern world to find who they felt was the right person to teach and to give their knowledge to, so that it could be put into the English language and shared with the modern world in words and language that the modern world could understand. I hope that answers.
And one more question from Andrea. Does unmasking send a person into uncontrollable tears? Or is this just another mask?
The first word, mask, mask.
Does unmasking send a person into uncontrollable tears?
Unmasking.
Yeah.
It is certainly possible. It isn't something that is an absolute for everybody, but it's certainly possible. And as we are unmasking, we're doing this a step at a time, a mask at a time. So there's ample opportunity to burst into tears when you have unmasked something and let it go and discovered what it was hiding, and feel the truth that's there, feel your own self that's really there, that was buried. That could be, it's quite beautiful, but it could be quite shocking as well to realize the degree of the lies that we have been living, and the degree of how much we have been diminished, squelched. It's quite shocking when we experience it. It's one thing to talk about it, hear me talk about it, say these things. Experiencing it is a whole different thing. And that's what we're after. We're after the experience of it, because that's what's real. I hope that helps.
Okay. You're welcome, Peter. I hope that answer helped too. And Andrea says, thank you. It is my current situation. And Asta says, I got disconnected, but I wanted to thank you for this class. It feels like I'm taking another new information that I forgot over the years. Nectar to my ears and heart. Thank you. You're welcome. You're all very welcome. Looks like this brings us to the end of today's session. I hope the audio was much better than it was yesterday. It sounded like it. And if there are no more questions, we will be closing out. Here's another comment, I think. The Reluctant Shaman. I read in The Reluctant Shaman during one of your first visits, you describe an experience after the surfy tea. Might that have been ayahuasca?
No, it was not mind altering, nothing hallucinogenic or psychotropic about it. It was a tea that makes you throw up. And I've always hated to throw up. Like, do anything to keep from throwing up. It's a little disorienting, but it's not mind altering or psychotropic. And so what I experienced was a personal projection of my understanding and my experience of death and destiny. It's a personification. Yeah. I hope that makes sense.
Okay, a few more thank yous, and we are closing out. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you again, Kay. As always, I love these things. I love listening to you and sharing these teachings. And again, you should receive an email with the link to the recording for today's session by tomorrow. And we'd like to share a couple of things before we close out. The song ceremony, a way to find your song, that has been used in the Whitaker's tribe for eons. This is something we want to gift you with, and I'm posting the links in the chat. Those are two links. One is where you sign up, where you get on our mailing list. The other one is just where you can access the material, the recordings. If you're already on our mailing list, just click the second link and you can download the ceremony. So I just posted that. And a reminder again about Kay's book. You can find them both on Amazon, The Reluctant Shaman, and Sacred Link. Sacred Link is now available in paperback and as a Kindle format. And last but not least, our invitation to you to our upcoming class that is called The Call of Your Song. And the invitation is, if you have a burning desire to heal, to wake up and live awake, and to help make a difference in the world, we have a class coming out that guides you much deeper into this knowledge and wisdom Kay shared, and how to make it part of your daily life and live it. And again, the class is called The Call of Your Song, and I am posting a link to that in the chat as well. If you want to find out more and if you want to join, you can find that link there. And that is it for you for today. Kay, thank you again so very much. And thank you everybody for joining us. And we hope you can join us again tomorrow. Tomorrow we start at 1 o'clock again, Mountain Time. And the title for tomorrow's session is Using Your Attention to Move into Your Heart and the Field of Awareness. So that's it. Thank you, Kay.
Thank you. Thank you, Helmut. Thank you, everybody. It is always my pleasure and extreme honor to be able to teach you, to share this with you.
And we see you tomorrow.
Love you all.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.